Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Play, Pause, Rewind, Episode 9. We're going to talk about Mortal Kombat and a little bit about video game movies. See, this is a very exciting episode because for us, it has been mere moments since the Falcon and Winter Soldier episode, but for you, it's been 2 weeks.
Wow. Amazing how time flies.
Yes. But we are pre-recording this, and it's going to be a little bit more of a brief episode, I think, because we've already been on Zoom for almost 2 hours today. So
yeah, and I mean, we're talking about Mortal Kombat today. It's a movie that's based on a video game. It's a clobber fest. It's a lot of action. Mm-hmm. I don't know how much that we'll have to talk about this film, but we still figured we'd give it a try and discuss it.
Yeah, it's a pretty surface level film, which I think is fine for this. Mortal Kombat, for those unfamiliar, is the popular fighting game series from video game studio NetherRealm. Another notable franchise of theirs is the Injustice DC games, which Niles, you and I have had a great time playing Injustice 2. We did the whole campaign rotating off between fights, and then us and all of our roommates at the time would play, and Niles would, I won't say cheat, but would definitely spam that bullshit scarecrow hook thing.
He just whips it around in his head, and he's unstoppable.
Which is kind of a joke in this movie.
Yeah.
I think we'll do maybe 20 seconds of non-spoilers and then just go into it, because there's a lot.
Well, yeah, there's not a lot to spoil with this film, too, because, the title of the film is Mortal Kombat. So if you've ever played the video games, then you probably have some inkling of what's going to happen in this movie.
Yeah, or maybe not, actually. But we'll see. But I will say my initial thoughts on the movie. It's fine. I think it delivers what it says it's going to deliver. You want to see some cool fights. There are some cool fights. I think they're done a disservice by the editing, but there are some cool moves in there, some good references to the games, and aesthetically it's pretty neat. But I wouldn't.
Yeah.
Will I rewatch this? Probably not.
Yeah. This was probably like a one-time viewing. Like, I don't feel any need to go back and rewatch this film, but overall, I'd agree with Dylan that yes, I think the movie delivers exactly on what it promises to be, a Mortal Kombat film, which is one-on-one fighting between like two different formidable foes, and this movie definitely delivers on that multiple times. And all the references were really spot on.
They were fun.
The whole like flawless victory or like finish him kind of stuff going on in the film, and we could talk about that a little bit later too. But they did some good job with the references, and I definitely loved the visual aesthetics of this movie. Like, I think the environments look really good, especially the opening sequence was just like, I think the cinematography was really neat in that scene.
Yeah, the opening sequence is legitimately great.
Oh yes.
I don't think anything else in the movie lives up to it, but the opening 7 minutes or so is pretty excellent.
It's really interesting, and like I think the opening sequence takes place in in the woods area of it's somewhere in Japan.
It's feudal Japan, yeah.
Yeah, it's feudal Japan, and it just looks so cool. Like, I just love the way it looks. Like, and when he drops the buckets of water, like, I think that's a really neat shot. Like, I think the first 7 minutes of the film were really spot on for sure. I'll say that the characters look really cool too. Even like all the CGI ones look really neat.
CGI was good.
Yeah, I think they did a really good job on casting. Honestly, I think the characters, they looked the part. They did a good job with the acting. I think the casting was really spot on. And I just threw in some metrics here in our notes for the show. But right now, as it stands, right now as we're recording this, at the start of May, the film is currently 6.3 out of 10 on IMDb, with a 54% on Rotten Tomatoes and 44% on Metacritic. So not ideal rating, but I think it's kind of what you'd expect with this kind of film.
I think that's a decent indicator. I think these reviews are pretty spot on. I think Metacritic maybe a little bit low. I don't think it's that bad as a 44%, but I don't know how Metacritic rating actually works. But I will say my experience with the games is somewhat limited. I've played the first of the reboot series, and I'm slowly working my way through the second one. And there's a tone that those games have that to me, it's like a combination of absurdity and kind of silliness, but also a tone of reverence and sort of playing it very straight and seriously. And it works in the games. And I don't think this movie finds that balance. I think it's very self-serious, except for Kano, who's the best part of the movie.
Yes.
And it doesn't add. It just doesn't. I don't know. I don't know how to say it really, but it doesn't land the way the games do. It doesn't have that balance quite as well. But I think let's just dive in. What do you think?
Yeah, why not? Let's dive in. And yeah, on a similar note, yeah, I don't have much experience with Mortal Kombat myself. I certainly didn't grow up playing this video game, but I've dabbled in it a little bit, as I'm sure everyone else has. So we're not experts in Mortal Kombat, clearly, but that's okay.
It is.
We're just two guys talking about a movie.
Yeah, I will say the characters and costume designs are dead on from what I've played of the games. Kung Lao especially looks awesome. He's got the big razor hat or the big saw blade.
Oh, that's badass.
And Raiden looks really cool. Liu Kang is pretty game accurate as well. Sonya Blade looks like Sonya Blade. She's just a blonde woman in a tank top, but that's what she looks like. And I guess Shang Tsung is the main villain, and he looks like himself.
Yeah, he looks like a villain, more or less. Yeah, Shang Tsung. I mean, if you guys watched
Lau himself.
Yeah.
I laughed at that.
You laughed at what?
I just thought it was funny. I was like, I know that voice. Wait a minute.
Yeah.
The Dark Knight.
Yeah, he's
the television.
Yeah, he's the television guy from The Dark Knight. So if you guys remember, if you listened to our podcast a few weeks back, we did an episode on The Dark Knight. And there's a character in The Dark Knight played by this same actor. I think his name, if I'm pronouncing it right, is Chin Han. He plays Shang Tsung in this movie, but in The Dark Knight, he plays some broker. And in The Dark Knight, I don't think he does a very good job as an actor. I don't think he was one of the weaker actors of the film. In this film, he does a better job. And he seems like a bad guy overall, and I think he fits the role overall a lot better than he did in The Dark Knight. But that's just me.
I'll do a brief rundown on what the hell the premise is of Mortal Kombat for the
that would probably help.
So from what I understand of the series, there are 3 realms that are of import. Nether Realm, which is not in this movie at all, but that is also the name of the game studio. Earth Realm, which is Earth, and Outworld. And the premise of the series is that the Elder Gods decreed that there will be a tournament called the Mortal Kombat every so often. And if Outworld wins 10 times, they get to invade Earth. And Earth Realm has lost Mortal Kombat 9 times, so they are approaching the final chance to defend themselves. But in this movie, Shang Tsung is just like, we're just going to cheat and kill all of Earth's contestants. Oh, and they get this little birthmark. I don't know if that's in the games or not. I think that's just a movie.
Yeah, I don't know either.
Convention. But they get these little birthmarks that mark them as contestants for the tournament. And if you kill one of them, you get the birthmark. And that's kind of the kickoff point of this movie. Our main character, Cole Young, has had his since birth. And he appears to be the only one. And he's like a fighting punching bag, basically. He goes in the ring and gets the shit knocked out of him for people's
He's a fighter, yeah.
And so that's where we kick off with this movie. And I just had one stray thought about this, because Lord Raiden, is like some sort of god. He looks very cool. He has an awesome hat. He has glowing blue eyes. But I'm like,
yeah,
this is Earth's last chance to defend itself. And I'm like, Raiden, did you not want to find the people yourself and train them and teach them, because it's like these people have to find where to go on their own.
Yeah, like
hang in there. It's like he obviously bothered to find Liu Kang and Kung Lao, but I guess none of the other people deserve to get a pickup.
Yeah, like he trained those two, and then he was like, "Just go find the rest of them." Like,
not even. They just sit there.
Yeah,
like
wait
in
for
the
them
desert,
to come
and
to
Liu
you.
Kang is just there. I guess it's a test or something, like a test of worth to find the temple, but also like, bro, this is your last chance. They're gonna invade.
If you can lightning anywhere in the world or anywhere in the 3 realms that exist, like, why not go get your champions and bring them back and train them? Like, it's a logical fallacy.
Whatever. I don't think this movie is meant to be thought about too deeply, but I just thought that was funny. I would say biggest positive, though, we talked about it briefly earlier, but the opening scene that in feudal Japan, which is Hanzo Hashimi. Is that his last name?
Hisagi or something like that. I can't remember.
But it's Scorpion, who is one of the more iconic characters in the Mortal Kombat series. He's the guy in the yellow and black robes. He's in feudal Japan, where he lives with his family, and then Sub-Zero and the Lin Kuei clan attack him for a reason that is not thoroughly explained in the movie, right? Or it's like his blood will win
it's
like that or something.
It's some kind of prophecy of like, his offspring will eventually, defeat Earth. Like his offspring will inspire Earth's champions or some bullshit like that.
So the Lin Kuei attack and just brutally murder his wife and son, but they hide the baby successfully. Fortunately, little baby gets to live, and Hanzo fights him off, but is killed, and then he goes into hell. Or Nether Realm. I think in the games it is Nether Realm where he goes, but I don't really know. And then he's not seen again for 95% of the movie.
He shows up at the end because he's been summoned back from hell after centuries of being there, and helps destroy Sub-Zero.
He delivers one of the best lines in the movie. I have been brought back from hell to kill you.
Yes, 100%.
I think, to be clear, like, we're kind of shitting on this movie a little bit. I had a good time.
Overall, it's fun.
Huh?
Yeah, overall, it's a fun movie. Yeah, you watch it, and like, there's not like a bunch of points in the film where you're kind of like stopping and looking at your watch. It's kind of more just like, oh, this is neat. This is kind of fun. I'm interested enough to see what happens next.
It moves very quickly, too quickly. Like, I don't think I ever had a full grasp on what the hell was going on. They just throw lore at you very quickly and move on from it. And they just want to get to the fights for the most part, I think. And it's very violent. The movie is very violent. It's Mortal Kombat. It should be violent because that's kind of a trademark of the series. But yeah, I would say the positives were mostly in the visual realm. The costumes were great. The characters and the actors looked great.
Kano was great as a character. Like, he's probably the best part of the film.
Without doubt. He was legitimately funny. I laughed several times in the movie, but only when he was saying things.
He was one of the funnier parts. He was good comedic relief, but he also played a good role in the plot.
He's the traitor.
Yeah, that traitor.
And then dies. Which is a shame, because now he probably won't be in sequel. I don't know how resurrection works in Mortal Kombat world, but maybe he can come back. I think there were a cyborg at some point in the game, so maybe that's how he returns.
There were a lot of things that were unclear in this film, so, maybe he'll come back later, but then it was also like, oh yeah, we killed all the bad guys, but then their bodies...
Except for Shang Tsung.
Yeah, they're just like taken back, and it's like, so does that mean they're going to be resurrected? What? Like, why are you guys cheating so much?
Yeah, for real. It's like, the Outworld people, Shang Tsung, and they're like, we're just going to ignore the rules. And Raiden is like, you're breaking the rule of the Elder Gods. And he's like, okay.
Yeah, just who's going to stop
stopping me? Yeah, they aren't doing anything, so who cares?
Yeah, where are they? Where are they?
Yeah, And the fights themselves were okay. There were some highlights. I think I talk about this in the Dark Knight episode, I think, but the choppiness of the editing just really butchers a good fight scene, because no matter how impressive the choreography is, if you have 15 cuts in a fight, like, we can't see the impressive choreography at that point.
Yeah, it's kind of like you've seen the Jason Bourne films, right?
I have.
Yeah. So like I mean, growing up, I watched those films, and I remember watching like the third one in theaters. And as you go through those movies, the camera progressively gets shakier and choppier in the fight scenes. Like, it's never like, let's watch it objectively.
Well, they kind of pioneered that style too.
Oh yeah, it's like all over the place. But I remember leaving like the movie theater of like the third film and being like, wow, I have a headache from all that motion.
Yeah.
Like, I just couldn't tell what was happening half the time. And yeah, like that kind of editing really jars.
And I would say, actually, it's interesting that you bring up the Bourne movies in that way, because for me, that's the only series where I like that type of editing in a fight scene.
Yeah, no, I agree. I like
because it plays into Bourne's character, especially in the first one, where he doesn't have his memory at all. So it's very chaotic and broken, because it's like he can do all this violent stuff, but he really doesn't know why. And then the problem became that people saw that the Bourne movies were successful, and they're like, I bet it's shaky cam and quick cuts, and and they didn't understand the purpose behind that.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah,
it's like imitators of a style take the style, but they rarely understand why the style was effective in context, so they just put it in a context where it doesn't belong.
Classic.
In a martial arts movie, you want to see the choreography. That's what's fun about it.
Yeah, Marvel does a really good job of like putting the choreography like front and center, like making sure you can see every time he throws the shield or when the kicks coming in.
Yeah.
They do a much better job of that.
Marvel does it well. Star Wars does it pretty well, with the exception of like Episode 2.
Yeah.
That Episode 2 duel is atrocious.
Yeah.
the one with Count Dooku and Anakin and Obi-Wan. It's like, watch that scene and your jaw will drop. It's terrible.
You're like, what's going on? What is the lights are flashing?
Yeah, it just cuts back and forth. It's like boom, 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 boom.
Yeah, all that kind of shit. But yeah, I mean, overall, I did enjoy this film. It's a fun clobber fest. We are absolutely shitting on it, but overall, it is fun to watch.
We're shitting on it, but we're having fun shitting on it. Like, I don't bear it any ill will. And despite me not loving this, I do want to see another one, because
me too.
The Mortal Kombat universe is weird as shit, and I really like it. And I want to know. I want to see these characters like evolve, and I just want to. I want more breathing room in a movie.
Yes.
Like
yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Like, and the games that I've played so far are complete nonsense as well. But there's because the story has to be structured around every couple minutes, two people gotta go like, and then fight each other on profile.
Yeah.
But the setting of the tournament in the first one is nice, because there's downtime between the rounds, and then all of a sudden someone will get mad and challenge someone else to a fight, and it's just like, it's kind of funny, but also treated super seriously.
Yeah.
And it just, one highlight of this one though, which I will say, is when Kung Lao is fighting whoever he's fighting, and he uses his big metal hat as a saw blade and throws her into the saw blade, cutting her in half. It is glorious, and it is beautiful. And then he says flawless victory afterward.
Yes, that was the perfect time to say it, and it was so satisfying, but it's gruesome.
Yeah. So it's moments like that where I'm like, this is very fun. And then when they're at dinner and Kano gets his laser eye power, and he's like, oh, fuck yeah. Great time. Like every scene he's in is hysterical, because he's just like a very angry Australian man who is always screaming.
Yeah, he's a fun character. Like, and I love that one scene with the lizard, and they're fighting it stuff, and then he pulls out its heart, and it's like, oh, that is right from the video game.
Yeah.
That is perfect.
Well, and so is what he says afterward when he says Kano wins.
Yeah, I love that.
When you win a fight, it always has like Scorpion wins.
Yeah. They did a really good job of like interlacing those video game references through there with the flawless victory and Kano wins and the heart and the fatalities and those other things. Like, so yeah, like every time that like any fight would finish, I was like, I'm waiting for them to say like, I win or something like, even with that, I know that the fire dragon finishing move, I think that was from the video game as well. If I remember.
Probably. I think most things in this are from the video game, with the exception of Cole Young. That is a character made up for this movie.
Oh, really? Oh.
Yeah, he was. But another one of those fun details was in the like training sequence when Liu Kang spams kick. Like he like if you've played a fighting game like Mortal Kombat or Injustice, you have experienced the irritation that comes along with like someone does a little like kick sweep and knocks you on the ground, and you get up and they do it again. It's like,
yeah, and I love that they referenced
that. Fun, and get me a laugh.
Yeah, right. Or like when he did that to Kano, just kept like doing the sweep kick. He was like, "Are you gonna do that again?"
And let's see what else. I mean, most of the positives are Kano related. I think he is the best.
Yeah, absolutely. He's a good part of the story, and he breathes a lot of good like life into it. Some of the not every character is like amazing, but that's okay.
Yeah, they're pretty paper thin. What did you think about Cole Young, our main character here?
I liked him overall, but I don't know, he wasn't super strong for me.
I thought he was pretty boring.
Yeah, he needed a little bit more something. Like it's difficult to put like a finger on it because he had a family, so you got some motivation there. I think he just needed some more development or something, because like when he was like doing the final thing of being like, we have to go fight, it was kind of like, okay, you're just saying that because that's your line. Like, make me believe you a little bit more. But I don't know. What did you think about it?
I thought he was the protagonist man. He is very like, he's fine. The actor did a good enough job with the role, but it was just like a pretty toothless character, and he was the everyman fish out of water in a movie that didn't really need it. Like, they don't really do much with the fish out of water thing for him, and his arcana, his ability that he gets is just so lame looking. It's like he
just gets some armor.
He gets some armor, and I think it like absorbs the energy. I think it's meant to be like Black Panther's suit, where he can take the impact and then redirect it.
Okay.
But it just looked really cheap to me. It looked like a rubber, like, muscle shirt.
Yeah, and he just got like the two knives or whatever.
Yeah, and I don't know if that Arcana thing is part of the games or not. Maybe it is, and I just wasn't paying close enough attention. But I don't know. I just think it looked stupid. Was my biggest problem with it. Like, if that's his ability, fine. I just think it looked weird and I didn't like it.
Yeah.
But
I'll agree with that a little bit. Yeah. One thing about Cole too, and with his family, this is gonna sound so weird, but like for half of the movie, I thought that it was like his sister and his like mother, and then on the later half of the film, I discovered, it's actually his wife and daughter.
Yeah.
That wasn't.
Initially, the relationship was unclear. Like, in the first scene, I thought that the little girl was like a relative or an adoptive like kid or something, and that I wasn't sure. But at some point, you're like, oh, they're married, and the little kid is theirs. Okay, I think it seemed young in relation. No pun intended with the name, but young compared to the age of the kid. I don't know.
Yeah, I wasn't really believing that he was the father of that kid. That was kind of weird. It was like, dude, she's like in high school, or
she looks like she's that old. I think she
was
like
she looked like she was maybe
like
in her freshman year, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah.
But like, and it's like, it looks like you barely like are 25. Like, this is.
I don't know. Maybe they accidentally got pregnant at a young age. It happens.
Yeah. But, don't want to make any assumptions.
Like, I thought he was fine. I don't think he was... I think, like, he was so generic, though. Like, the fact that they created this whole cloth character for the movie to be our protagonist is like, you didn't want to do... And, I mean, they make him Scorpion's descendant, is the twist, I suppose. But I think it was pretty telegraphed. I mean, he keeps having flashes of Scorpion, and Scorpion, to me, was, like, he's the protagonist of the first 7 minutes, and then he dies. And then he's not really part of the plot at all until the final sequence where he just materializes and says the wonderful line, "I have been sent back from hell to kill you." And it's like he's such an absent player to important player. Like, it transitions so hard that it's kind of comedic.
Yeah, it's weird. I was really kind of hoping that he would be or have more agency throughout the film.
Yeah. And he does kind of just pop in and out in the games too, I think. Considering he's the poster child for the franchise, he's in it less than you would think.
Yeah. Well, I think, Mortal Kombat, it's, as a fighting game, it's more just like, just about just having fun and just beating the shit out of each other on like a, Saturday afternoon, being like, let's just hang out and play some video games. And, it doesn't matter if there's a protagonist or not.
There's a very deep lore to Mortal Kombat, though. Like, it is a shockingly intricate world and story.
Yeah. I don't know the first thing about it, so.
Yeah. The movie kind of represents that. I think it felt very small scale. Like, everything's in this little cave area or in a barn or something, or in a gym. It's
there's not too much to say about the small scale side of it or whatever.
No, I feel like they could have really went for it and they didn't in a lot of ways,
Mm-hmm. So. Well, if they have like a sequel, we can see some more of the region or the outer world, the nether world or whatever, and get outside of the Earth realm. Just explore that stuff.
Yeah. Let's see what other things we have here.
Well, here's one thing that I wanted to just kind of bring up because we're talking a little bit about the lore is the Arcana stuff. It works for the film and it's fine. But I feel like I've just seen this plot device kind of time and time again, and it's just of the characters being able to unlock that power inside of you kind of shit.
Right.
Like, I know that I have this superpower. I just need to find the way to harness it. And it's fine, but I don't know. I just feel like this plot device is a little overused. And I also wasn't entirely clear on how physical weapons can be an Arcana, because it's like, oh, it comes from within you, and then all of a sudden you have this hat that's a razor blade. It's like, okay, so can anyone else just take the hat and use it, or
Right, yeah, I'm not sure either. I don't even think the Arcana and the quest to unlock their Arcanas needed to be part of the story. Like, I think they could have just trained them in crazy-ish combat. I don't know.
Yeah, but I mean, it's just a nitpicky thing. But the whole training thing of having to unlock it it kind of seemed like, I mean, it was fine throughout most of the film, and then within the last few minutes of the film, it kind of becomes bullshit because what was the Sonya Blade?
Sonya Blade, right? Yes.
So she was the one who has the fight with Kano at the end, and she kills him. So she inherits the birthmark. But then, literally, when she comes back to the cave, she's got her powers already.
Yeah, she didn't have to unlock her; she just gets them.
Yeah, it's like all of a sudden she's shooting shit out of her arms. It's like, okay, so she didn't have to unlock shit. She just had to kill the guy.
Right. Yeah, it's whatever. This movie is very much just built around let's see the people fight. That's kind of the sales pitch all the way through, and it does that in satisfying ways for the most part. Let's see. Yeah, you say here that it would have been a better theater experience than at home viewing. Yup.
Absolutely. Yeah, we both watched this at home. So I mean, if you really want an immersive experience in this world, I'd say go see it in theaters rather than just your bedroom at home. It'll have a much better time. watching it on the big screen with surround sound and pitch black. It'll probably be a lot better.
Yeah. I did think the relationship between Cole and his family was super shallow, but whatever, it worked for the like driving heart of the movie, I suppose. I did think it was kind of comical how in the beginning Sub-Zero just freezes Hanzo's family to death, but for Cole's family, he just kind of like pins them to the net.
Yeah. It's like, I don't need to complete that job. They'll die on their own.
Well, I was like, when he goes into the gym, which is where the climax of this movie takes place, it's just a fighting gym that has ice everywhere. It's like, oh my God, that was unnecessarily dark to kill his child and wife with ice, but they didn't. So
yeah, I'm glad that they survived.
That would have been a upsetting like tone to set for the climax of the movie.
Yeah, it would have been. I mean, with Sub-Zero too, I kind of wish we got a little bit more development from him because he's just kind of the bad guy, the big old bad guy who's coming to kill you.
He's the henchman.
Yeah, he's the henchman. He's the evil henchman who's the big old baddie, and he's OP. So it's gonna be hard to kill him. But yeah, I wish we could have even learned more about his clan or
the Lingwei.
Yeah, something like that. Like that could have been more interesting, but at the same time, this movie is I think an hour and 50 minutes or something like that.
It's very short. Yes.
Yeah, it's almost even 2 hours. You've got to be you got to be cognizant about how much content you're shoving into this film, and how much time you have. So I would have liked more development for Sub-Zero and maybe even the family, just so we could expand upon them and develop a better connection with them. You got to balance expectations, especially when it's a fighting movie and it's like, oh yeah, we got to do a lot of fight scenes in this, and there's all this other stuff that's got to go on. So yeah, it's a difficult balancing act.
Yeah, you definitely have to have situations that allow the characters' big personalities to play off of each other. And I think, aside from Kano, I don't think they do that particularly well with any other character. And that's why it's kind of a shame when he dies, because he was the best part of the whole thing.
Yeah, right.
Let's see. Do we have any other thoughts?
I see that you have this. Oh wait, we already talked about that, about Cole's ability being stupid.
It just looks lame. But whatever. It's fine. Him being Scorpion's descendant is whatever.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's a little interesting too, because it's like, well, if you're his descendant, I feel like maybe you should use more of his moves, but at the same time, different training. He was a boxer. His ancestor was a samurai warrior.
Yeah. The Scorpion Sub-Zero fight at the end was kind of fun. He says his iconic line, "Get over here."
Yeah, that was fun. Get over here.
And it's the cool costume design. The cool costume design all around. Like the costumes look really great.
Yes.
And I mean the movie is complete nonsense, but it's fun nonsense.
It was kind of funny. Like what I was just thinking about it randomly after I watched the movie, but there's that scene in the movie where it's the four-armed monster.
Yeah.
I don't know what they're called.
I can't remember his name.
But it comes after Cole's family, and Cole defends himself, and that's where he gets his arcana and stuff, and he gets his weapons and stuff. But the whole time he's kind of getting the shit beaten out of him. And as soon as he gets the blades, he just kills the guy, basically. He chops off his hand, he stabs him through the eye.
Yeah.
It's like, so if you just have a knife, you can kill this guy. He's got 4 arms. You can kill him with a knife. It's just, I don't know. It's just kind of funny.
It was funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, fun watch. Nothing much else to say. I think we're kind of spinning our wheels a little bit with this. But yeah. I'm excited to see who they cast as Johnny Cage in the sequel, if they make a sequel. He's one of the main characters in the video games, and he's like this really kind of egotistical, douchey actor who's a good guy, but he just wears baseball shades and has close cropped hair and has his name tattooed across his chest, and he has a big belt buckle that says Cage on it, and he's like, I don't know, like he seems like a real, like I think a John Cena or a Ryan Reynolds or someone would be really fun to play him. But he and Sonya Blade have like a romantic relationship in the games and have kids, and their daughter is one of the main characters in the second game. I think she's a character. So far she is. But yeah, it's like in the games, just the plot of the games that I have experienced so far, like just to compare it to what this movie is. In the first game, just starts right off the bat. They're in the tournament. Liu Kang wins the tournament, but then Shang Tsung and people like, not good enough, we're going to invade anyway. And they do. And it like a bunch of characters get killed in the first game, and it ends with like Earth just being completely invaded by the Outworld armies or whatever. The second game picks up during that war. There's just a massive planet-wide war, and then they win, and then it jumps forward in time, and it's like there's a truce with Outworld. There's this whole empire like usurper storyline going on. There's a special forces led by Sonya Blade and Raiden, which is very funny to see, like just like militaristic people, and then Raiden with his big hat and glowing eyes just like working together. And Johnny Cage is leading this Black Ops unit of his kid and a bunch of other people. It's like,
oh wow.
Yeah, it's just like there's a ton going on, and it's all really dumb nonsense, but it's really fun and taken incredibly seriously. And in this movie, it's like a handful of people find a temple and train for a bit, and then they kill some people, and that's the whole thing.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm being a little reductive, but in comparison to the absurdity and out there nature of the game's plot, it's, something else.
Yeah. Well, hopefully they can expand upon that in future films. 'Cause, yeah, that sounds fucking cool as hell. Like all the shit that you just laid out there with those two plots, like that sounds neat.
Yeah, just like it's like pure chaos energy.
Yeah, it sounds exactly like chaotic energy, and that sounds just like what a Mortal Kombat movie should be. So yeah.
Also, characters die and come back as robots, I think.
Ooh.
And people will be fighting, and then just someone will punch someone, and they will end up. They're in like a room fighting, and then they punch each other, and they end up in Nether Realm, surrounded by like fire and brimstone. It's like, where was that in this?
Yeah, that would be neat.
So hopefully they get a greenlit sequel and get to keep doing that.
Yeah,
because there's potential here.
Yeah, there certainly is, and I feel like at least from what I've seen, the audience reception has been great so far. Like people have been interested in the series, and I think Kano has a lot to do with that.
Probably, he was the only like spark of charisma in the whole movie.
Yeah,
no,
and I mean,
so to the other actors, and I don't think any of it was their fault. I think they just weren't given anything to do.
Oh, totally. Yeah, and if this movie had been like, a little bit longer, I feel like there could have been a lot more content squeezed in there. Or even if it was like a series, like a 6-part series of like hour-long episodes, I feel like they definitely could have built a lot more up for this. But I understand the hesitation to do a series because that requires more investment, a lot more time, and what if people aren't interested in this? So.
I think that point though segues into the broader question that you were asking me about video game movies as a concept and their execution. And I think if you're going to adapt a video game directly, which this doesn't do, but a lot of, if you're going to try to adapt the story of a game kind of one-to-one, a series is a better option because game stories are just longer than movie stories. Like The Last of Us, they're making that into a TV show because The Last of Us storyline is like 15-something hours long in the game.
Yeah.
And that includes sections of gameplay where you're not necessarily progressing the narrative, but still, it's probably going to make for a good 10-hour series out of that game. If you want to make a movie out of a video game franchise, you just kind of got to be inspired by the game and write your own thing.
Yeah, and I mean, making a movie of a video game is definitely really difficult because in video games, you'll often have like this, like you were saying, like multi-hour long stories where there's a lot of gameplay, there's a lot of like cutscenes, there's a lot of like you're searching for things and you're finding things and you're completing side quests and doing all these other things. And it's like how do you take something that's so big and so like expansive and shorten it down to 2 hours?
Right.
It's like really difficult to do. So yeah, I think series are usually the way to go. Like even The Witcher is a good example of is another good example of a series that did a really good job of adapting a video game.
Well, it's adapting the books, but still.
Oh yes, of course. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
The books.
Yeah, because I like The Witcher. I mean, The Witcher. In my opinion, The Witcher games are stronger or more well-told narratives than The Witcher books are. But that's a whole other discussion. But I think
yes, of course.
Part of the challenge of adapting video games to movie or TV is that you lose the interactive element. And a lot of people try to make the point like, oh, you can't adapt games. Like, they aren't made for storytelling, or they just like are meant to be fun. It's like, well, that's bullshit. Anyone who doesn't know anything that they're talking about. But you do lose the interactive element. And a lot of games have stronger stories because they can generate an emotional response because it's you who is taking control and has to do a certain thing. Like in, I don't know, like if you have to make the decision as a player to progress a certain bit of the story, you're going to have a connection to it. And I think most people who adapt video games aren't able to account for what to do with that. Like, you're going to inherently lose the interactive element, so you have to compensate for it with something else. And most video game adaptations have not successfully done that.
No, yeah, that's a very good point, and that's a very difficult thing to do, to like balance that. Like, take Assassin's Creed for instance. We in case you guys don't know, we both appreciate the franchise. We really do. The games have been fun over the years. I haven't played any of the more recent ones, but the movie is just,
it's atrocious. It's
we
bad.
both do not like it.
And that's the like most egregious example of a modern video game movie, I think, because it so thoroughly misses the point of what made Assassin's Creed cool. At least to me, Assassin's Creed, to me, the premise is there's this dude in modern time, and he gets in this animus machine, which unlocks the DNA of his ancestors and allows them to relive their memories through different historical periods. And to me, the cool part of the games was that, at least according to what they claimed, most every event and character you interacted with was a real person doing what they are portrayed to be doing in the game in real life at that time. And all of the assassin targets that you kill were people who died on those dates. And they just weave the assassin characters into this narrative. And so it's historical fiction with some sci-fi elements. The movie is mostly set in a science lab.
Yeah, it just, there's probably, I don't know, it's like a 2-hour film or something like that, and like probably 20 minutes of it occurs in the medieval times.
Yeah,
the
it's
times
like half an hour. And
yeah,
that stuff is pretty cool.
Yeah.
The part in the past is pretty neat. The only downside is the only named historical character in the flashbacks is Christopher Columbus for 30 seconds at the end. And everyone else is just nameless like henchmen that he fights. But
yeah, there's like that whole fight sequence where he like goes to like a big old like Catholic thing, and it's like, wait, is the Pope here? Who are these cardinals? Like,
well, it's supposed to be the Spanish Inquisition, I think.
Oh, thank you. That's why I couldn't remember what was going on. But yeah, I think that movie, Assassin's Creed, does a really bad job of like, it's a good example, or a good example of a bad adaptation of a video game. That's what I meant to say. Because it totally misses the mark of what made those games fun. The original Assassin's Creed, it's not very fun when you're in the lab. Like,
no.
The lab, if you play the original Assassin's Creed game, is boring. It sucks. It's the worst part of the game.
To the point where in more recent games, they've cut out almost all of the modern day stuff. After from like Revelations on, like, it's so downplayed because that's not what appeals to people.
Yeah. Exactly. Yes, the part that's like boring and it's like it's tedious and it's like, okay, so I got up, I go to my room, and now I sit here and I try to like use my eagle vision to read the signs on the walls, and it's like, okay, cool. Can I go back to sleep and get back to the ancient times now?
The characters I care about, I don't give a shit about Desmond.
Desmond.
But I mean, and like they even seemed to change course because it seemed in the first couple games that they were building up to where like you would do a couple historical ones and the series would culminate in modern day where you play as Desmond, who is now a full-fledged assassin. By the time you get to that era, you don't play as him the full game. You play as him for like 20 minutes because people were like, we don't care about Desmond. We care about the historical characters because they're fun and it's cool to like be in Nassau in the golden age of piracy or to be in the Revolution or Renaissance Italy or the Crusades. Like that's what appealed about that series. And then, but on the flip side, I think the most recent Tomb Raider movie is a pretty good adaptation of a video game. They changed some things from the reboot game, but it's like, it's a solid movie. It's a fun adventure movie, and we don't get a lot of adventure films anymore. And I like Warcraft. I think it's a pretty fun movie. It's not great, but it understands the series it's adapting well enough to make a decently fun and loving adaptation of it.
Well, yeah, and I think one of the reasons why Warcraft works as a film, because I agree that Warcraft is a fantastic adaptation of a video game, is because it takes its time. You know, it's like we're going to like actually focus in on like the orcs and those people, and you know, give them some sympathy, you know, and then we're going to focus a little bit on the humans, and then we're going to like, you know, do some other stuff. And so I think like, you know, it was a little bit more diligent about setting the scene rather than just rushing in and saying, here's Mortal Kombat. Like, this is how it works. These are the realms.
Yeah. Like, and I even feel like Warcraft is a little rushed, specifically with the human characters, but like in that movie, the orc characters are like, they do have solid relationships built up, and you like the main orc guy. You like Duratan, and you're sad when he gets screwed over at certain points in the movie, and you want him to succeed. And you know, like that movie probably need another 30 minutes too to flesh it out because it has too many characters for a 2-hour runtime. But it does a much better job than something like this because this has even more characters, or maybe not. Maybe it's about the same, but it's just there are more action scenes in this, so you have less time for the characters to develop because the action scenes, for the most part, aren't really developing the characters in parallel with the action. There are a couple exceptions to that, but most of the time the action is just action. Like when Kano and Sonya Blade fight in the little mobile home, that doesn't do anything for their characters. They just kick the shit out of each other for a bit. So... But there's potential here. This is a series that could be a lot of fun in the future. Yeah,
and I definitely like to see them explored a little bit more. Yeah, like if they make a sequel, then yes, there's plenty of opportunity to world build even a little bit more. Because I think that's like the main struggle of like adapting video games to film is like, you know, it's difficult to squeeze everything into a 2-hour runtime when this is already such an expansive world.
And I think the biggest problem in these adaptations is that the people in charge of them don't really get video games, or they don't get what makes the game they're adapting special. Like you can see that in a lot of older video game adaptations. They're like the Doom movie, which I have not seen, but I do know there is a sequence where the action is in first person, like the gun, like in Doom. And really? It's a video game movie, so I have to do a video game thing. Like, no. You're just, like, if you're adapting a book, do you have, like, the story open up and, like, go down a paragraph of words? No, you don't, because that's not how adaptation works. You have to understand what works in the original story, what works as just because it is good storytelling, and what works because of the medium it's in. Understand how to extract what is good. Put it in the new medium. That's the job of any adaptation writer, and I don't know why people don't take that responsibility as seriously with video game adaptations.
And that's I don't know. My mind all of a sudden just jumped to like what was that film? It was a Battleship, right? Yeah, I didn't see it. Well, I wasn't going to waste my time on that movie because it was a movie that was based on a board game.
Yeah, it's like the quest for IP had reached a new low at that point.
And like, I mean, board games, that's definitely different from like a video game because it's just, there's not as much story to build there.
Specifically in Battleship. Like, what?
Yeah, who the fuck came up with that idea? Let's make a movie about Battleship, the board game.
Well, I guess it's not as like pathetic of a cash grab as the Emoji Movie as a sales pitch would be.
Oh yeah.
Like, it's just the money people are always like, I hear there's a brand we should acquire and make money off of brand.
With the money, you can shop in town.
Well, it's like when Viacom bought John Krasinski's Some Good News thing.
Oh yeah,
he was doing earlier in the pandemic, and like they're not gonna have him host it, and it's not him in his living room. So what's the point? No one actually cares about the program. It was just cute to see Jim from The Office talk about puppies, like that.
Yeah, and it was just a good distraction from the pandemic at the time.
Yeah, it's just the acquisition of IP is really weird as a process. Like,
yeah, I mean, I guess it's worth mentioning, because I think you and I got tagged in like a Facebook post about it, but there's like the Rock'em Sock'em Robots.
Oh yeah,
movie.
Isn't Vin Diesel in that or something?
Ugh, yeah, what the hell? Like they're
right.
It's just they're scraping the bottom of the barrel. Like, let's get every little bit that we can.
Yeah, and like some IPs, I get it. Like they're super valuable. And there's a lot of gold to mine within them, but like, just make an original thing for fuck's sake. I understand it's hard to compete in the marketplace right now, but is anyone going to watch a Rock'em Sock'em Robots movie? Honestly, I'm not.
Yeah.
I mean that in a mean way, but who cares? It's a toy from when? When did Rock'em Sock'em Robots come out? Hold on.
Oh yeah, I want to know how old is this invention?
Rock'em
Revolutionary
Robots.
at the time.
Okay, so this is a Okay, it was first manufactured by the Marx Toy Company in 1964. So you're telling me that what you wanted to do with your money is acquire the film rights to a toy from the 60s. So people who played with those toys were probably like 8 to 10 in 1964 initially, right?
Yeah, something like that. 8 to 10.
Okay, so those people are in
like
their 60s now. So you're going to make a Vin Diesel vehicle about robots for 65-year-olds. Where's the business sense in that? That's like, don't you want to hit the 18 to 35 demographic? Isn't that the like primary targeting for these big budget things?
Yeah, it's it really doesn't make a lot of sense. Like, it's just like a kind of a cash grab. It's like,
yeah,
they might have better luck, trying to do a Space Invaders film, or what was that other one where it was like the little triangle ship that shot the asteroids?
Or are you talking about Galaga?
Galaga, thank you.
Galaga. Yeah, like I mean, yeah. Like,
I'm sure that there's already like some studio exec batting around that idea. Like, come on, guys, let's do it. Galaga, come on, do it.
We've got to capture the 80s arcade adaptation market before it hits big. Yeah, I mean, we're definitely meandering a lot here, but there wasn't a whole lot to say about Mortal Kombat, and I don't mean that in a demeaning way. It's just what you see, you get with this movie.
Yeah, and I was just, we just got off on this tangent because I think, when you start to talk about video game movies, I feel like you're gonna inevitably start to talk about like every kind of game movie, whether that's Rock'em Sock'em Robots or Assassin's Creed or Mortal Kombat,
Yeah.
And it's just kind of interesting to think about, how you can create a story surrounding Rock'em Sock'em Robots.
Yeah, and then going back to video games specifically, like not all video games are great candidates for adaptation to movies.
Yeah, absolutely.
But there are some very story-rich ones, like Mass Effect. Mass Effect would make an amazing 3-season high-budget television series. It is a story-rich RPG with a pretty unique sci-fi universe, lots of great characters that have legitimate depth. Like, it's an amazing story, with the exception of the last 5 minutes. But I would love to see a TV show of that. I would love to see more Warcraft movies. I would love to see a good Assassin's Creed. The Tomb Raider's getting a sequel. What else is good? But like, don't adapt like, I don't know.
Goose Game.
Something like I don't
I'd love to.
see
Yeah,
the
I'd love
announcement
to.
of Minesweeper the movie.
Wait, really?
No. I made that up. That's a hypothetical.
Oh, okay. I could see it. Did you ever play that Goose Game?
Oh, I haven't played
came
Goose
out?
Game. Untitled Goose Game.
Yeah, the
I
Untitled
have
Goose
not
Game.
played it yet, but
That would be a great 30-minute film. I don't need anything longer than that. That would be just a great 30-minute film.
Yeah, and I mean,
but
like,
yeah, I think
Legend of Zelda, like that would be another tricky
Yeah.
one because Link doesn't talk. What are you gonna do with that?
yeah, that would be a tough one to get around. But you could like have a plot device where it's like, oh yeah, he's mute. Like something makes him mute at the start of the film or something.
Right.
But yeah, I mean that could be a good one to adapt. But I'd much rather have Breath of the Wild 2.
Well, yeah, at least we're getting that. But
Yeah.
I've heard rumblings of a animated Super Mario Brothers movie. Seems like a good idea.
That's not bad. Yeah, I mean, there's plenty to work with there, and I mean that would be great for the demographic of like ages like 7 to like 13.
Yeah.
That's not a bad one. Sometimes I'm like, oh yeah, Halo would be a good one, but then I think that they've already made a few Halo movies.
They're not very good.
Yeah.
Showtime is making a Halo show. I don't know exactly what it's about, but
That could be neat.
it could be. Halo's an interesting enough universe, but they have not really cracked the code with those Halo movies. They're not horrible, but they're pretty boring.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, going back to Mortal Kombat, I think, the structure of this movie works well for this film because, it's like, since it's like a one-on, or, the gameplay of this film, or the gameplay of Mortal Kombat, it's 1v1. It's one person at a time fighting one person at a time, which is a lot more easier to manage rather than, like Assassin's Creed, where you're running around and you've got like these different levels of narrative, like outside of the Animus and inside of the Animus. But, so there's a little bit less complexity for the Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat kind of arcade game. Mortal Kombat certainly does sound like it's a very complex universe. The more that I learn about it.
Yeah. But
I don't know.
But like it overall, it could have been better. It was fun enough.
Fun enough is a good summary.
I think perhaps unfairly, I wanted more out of this movie, but it delivered on what it told me it would. But
yeah, I think it would have been better if it was like a series. Coming out maybe like on a weekly basis. Maybe we get like the first 2 episodes and released really quick, and then we have to wait every week for the next ones. That could have been a little bit better to lengthen it out a little bit more and add some more story. But overall, it's not a bad film. It's not a bad film.
It's fine.
It's fun.
It's fine.
It's enjoyable.
Well, you think that's a good place to call it for this?
Sure. Yeah. I think it was a good, faithful adaptation. Again, we are not Mortal Kombat nerds, so we don't know everything. But yeah, I mean, I would recommend. I guess I'd recommend it. I don't know. I don't feel super strongly.
I would recommend it about as confidently as I did Godzilla versus Kong. Like, it's very short. It delivers what it promises, and you're not going to be bored. You may be a little perplexed here and there, but I mean, it has like cool looking people doing really violent fights and a really funny Australian guy screaming. So yeah, that's
what's not to love.
It was fun. Just give it a watch. Where can people find you online, Niles?
Yeah, people can follow me on Instagram at Niles Got No Styles. Where can people find you, Dylan?
People can find me on Instagram at DylanD1026, on Twitter at D-Day Movies, and on YouTube, I have my D-Day Movies YouTube channel. Probably find that through Instagram or Twitter, the easiest. Apologies for kind of the rambling nature of this episode, but it's been a long day of recording, and we didn't have a whole lot to say.
Yeah.
But,
well, yeah, at the end of the day, it's an action movie. There's only so much you can say about an action movie, but that's okay.
Next episode, we may do Invincible. I don't know.
I would
love recording a long time from now. So
yeah, I'd love to do Invincible. I'd love to do an episode on Invincible. So 100% down for that.
Rewatch in between now and then of the whole season. But
yeah, I ordered the first compendium of
the comic. Nice.
Invincible comics. So I'm gonna hopefully read that before we record the next episode. Cool. So that way, one of us will have some knowledge on the comics.
Does the first compendium line up with season 1?
I don't know. I guess I will find out. There's a lot of issues. Like there's 3 different compendiums, but there's like that's like the biggest that you can buy in bulk. Mm-hmm. As in, there's like 25 volumes or something like that.
But those compendiums are gonna be thick.
It's gonna be a lot. Yeah, so hopefully I can get through it before we record Invincible. But please stay tuned for that episode and more good content to come.
Yes, content that we're more knowledgeable about as well.
Yeah.
But until then, if you're watching on YouTube and you enjoyed this, please drop a like. That helps us out a lot. Consider subscribing if you want to see more. If you are on audio platforms, tell a friend, share around, leave a review. That helps us out in some way. But have a good 2 weeks. We will see you guys in the future.
Yeah, thank you so much for listening.
Bye.
Bye.